Welcome to the Latino Podcast, where we amplify the voices of Latino professionals, entrepreneurs, and leaders coming together to educate, inspire, and connect across one of the most dynamic binational regions in the world. Bicultural, premium, powerful.
Hey, it's Sean Gomez. Welcome to another episode of the Latino, where we talk about the intersection of law and our Latino communities. We feature lawyers, judges, community leaders, stakeholders, change agents, all to talk about, how law comes together with our community. I'm joined, as I often am, by my co-host, David Arreguin, who is a lawyer here at Gomez Trial Attorneys. He runs our California-Mexico border practice. And it's always a treat to have him. As you may know, he was first a guest on the podcast, and now we're happy to have him with us. This episode, as always, is brought to you by your sponsor, Gomez Trial Attorneys. Gomez Trial Attorneys is a national consumer rights law firm that offers the very highest level of legal representation, both in the English and Spanish languages, to consumers that have suffered personal injury, labor and employment harm, have been the victims of civil rights violations, and have suffered harm through exposure to defective products and dishonest consumer practices. We like to say that we are binacional or binational, bicultural, bicultural, and best in class. We offer services and have physical offices on both sides of the border. Many of us grew up, David grew up in Tijuana, Mexico, for example. Many of our team members, come from those communities, speak the language. We try to offer the services at a very high level. That's why we say best in class. So, David, today we have a very special guest who really does a lot of what we do in law, and that is, as far as I see it, working for communities, building coalitions, and building collaborations. And so why don't you introduce our guest, and then we can get going.
Yeah, no, of course. And thank you, John. I'm excited about our guest here, Tamra Lett. I met her at a South Bay Bar Association, one of the many organizations that she's a part of. And I think what she does well, and she'll talk more about this, is the fact, like you said, she brings communities together. So Tamra, now it's on you. Please tell us about yourself, a little bit of background. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I am a senior associate at Stark and D'Ambrosio. We're a boutique law firm. We practice family law. That is my department, 99% of my practice. We also have a general civil litigation practice that assists with businesses and their legal issues, things like ADA parking lot compliance, personal injury matters, all that kind of stuff. So beyond that, I am very involved with Lawyers Club. I'm a second year board member there and our current co-chair for membership development with two other members. Beyond that, I am on the DI division of the San Diego County Bar Association. My mandate is our outreach subgroup and our affinity bar program. So through that, we partner local attorneys, county bar members, with our other affinity bars in the San Diego community. And they are there to facilitate the relationship between the county bar and that organization to make sure that they have representation, connections, resources that the county bar can offer. I also volunteer on the arbitration panel with the San Diego County Bar Association. So that is for fee arbitration, assisting attorneys and clients to navigate their way through those fee disputes. Locally, where I live, I'm in Imperial Beach, California, and we're a very small, quirky community, and we're growing a lot. We have a very active Chamber of Commerce, so that's actually where I was coming from this morning, was our local monthly chamber meeting.
Wow, cool. So, Tamara, I look at you all the time. I'm like, when does this woman sleep? She's so busy. She's everywhere. And so you mentioned that you are on the board of Lawyers Club, and maybe some of our viewers don't know what that means. Like, we all take it for granted that we know what it is. How about you start with the story of how it was founded and kind of, what it does today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Lawyers Club has been around since the 70s. It was basically founded out of needing to create space for women in the legal community. And so both women and their male colleagues came together. Men have been an important part of the founding of the organization. And so it's just grown over time. We have over 1,000 members. Our mandate is the advancement of women in law and society. But beyond that, it's also to create equality and parity in the legal community. And so for us, that means folks from all parts of the community to try and make sure that we're creating space for everyone. And leadership is also a tremendously important aspect of our organization. So creating those paths to access to leadership opportunities for our members, as well as encouraging more partnerships with our other organizations that have similar mandates, like La Raza, for instance. I think that there's a whole lot of crossover there. Beyond that, we have our Fund for Justice, and that is our charitable arm of the organization. And so through that, during the year, we fundraise with our events and grant applications to raise funds that are then distributed to other nonprofits in the community that are aligned with our mission and values. So beyond just supporting women in the community, that also means, for instance, some of our grantees have programs for providing employment opportunities and necessary materials for unhoused folks, as well as those types of opportunities and resources for trafficking victims, victims of domestic and sexual violence. That's a really critical part of what Lawyers Club does. So as much as our events are wonderful to attend, it's important to remember why we're going to those and where those membership fees are being directed to.
And so, you said you say chair of membership, is that what you said? Like,
Yeah, so we have our membership development committee. Lawyers Club has a wide range of committees for pretty much any interest that you could possibly have. But membership development is critical because that is the major source of our presence in the community to make sure our numbers are strong, as well as to economically support the organization. And so, for instance, last week we were here at Gomez Trial Attorneys. You guys were so generous to host us for our meeting. We get together there and strategize as to how can we build up our presence in the community, what are our untapped folks that we need to be building relationships with. I've been really prioritizing undergrad students, current law students, our paralegal population here in San Diego, making sure that it's not just attorney based. And beyond that too, we have a large part of our membership that are non-attorneys as well. So I would say the overarching theme of what I try and focus on is community, creating harmony, building those connections to create beautiful things for our finest city.
Love it. And so that kind of answered my question. I thought maybe some people listening would be like, well, Lawyers Club sounds cool. Can I be a member? And it appears that you've answered the question. It appears membership is open to anyone who would like to be a member. It sounds like.
Yes, definitely. You don't have to be an attorney. You don't have to be in legal practice. We encourage as much diversity as possible amongst our membership. I think that everyone thrives and benefits from that. Similarly, going back to the leadership component, having solid, diverse representation on our board is very critical to us. So whether that means folks of different age groups, backgrounds, all of that is very important. So sometimes there's not always a lot of transparency about how does this board for this organization run and how does this one work. So I try and spread the good word about what that process is. And it's certainly encouraged for folks that are in leadership in similarly oriented organizations to consider board service or co-chair opportunities within Lawyers Club as well, because that brings a whole new perspective to our board and different ideas about growth and how we can further our initiatives. And that includes men as well. So we have 2 men currently on our board, actually.
And I feel like Tamra is definitely a spokesperson for Lawyers Club. She went on and on about how great Lawyers Club is at this December event. And she actually got me to go to one of the events early January. So just the fact that you're doing that and actually pushing people to like attend, I think that means a lot.
And the event that you went to, was it a bourbon tasting?
It was
or
a
something?
bourbon tasting that
Oh
she
yeah, I
was
really
looking
had to
for.
twist your arm on
Yeah,
that.
she was so nice about it. I was trying to do like dry January. Didn't happen.
No, that's a hard one.
But just the fact that you have a small group committee for membership and that you now have 1,000 members, I think that says a lot. There's a lot of boards in town and they're having a hard time actually bringing members in.
It's all about relationships. And so when I joined Lawyers Club, what kept me going to everything is that you don't just attend and then you leave. Someone is going to ask about you, about what you do, what you're interested in, and then give you something as a next step to further develop you professionally, personally, whatever you're into. And so I had never considered being on a board at the time that I ended up running, but I was aggressively voluntold to pursue it. And that's what makes the organization stand out, I think, is that it's, as much as we want to have as many members, you're not just a member. People are going to follow up with you to say, okay, you've joined, what would you like to get into? And we make it very easy. So, with our committees, you just add it to your profile on there, and then you're receiving news about when the committees are having meetings. You can drop in and attend, but it doesn't mean that you need to have a large time commitment or a bunch of duties, but you can participate even on a small scale. So, you go to an event, we have an opportunity to do a pre-event article, a post-event article. You get a byline in our weekly that's distributed to our membership, which again is quite extensive. It's a great launching pad for any future leadership endeavor you might be looking for, as well as being so open to cold calling another member because you're interested in whatever type of law or having a professional development challenge. Okay, what is my resource to try and navigate my way through that?
So, in terms of, there are lawyers in my observation that never leave their office. They come in, they're, because they, that's for them. I think some are wired that way. Maybe they're not good multitaskers. I don't know. And then there are lawyers that kind of get out there and are active in the community, do this sort of thing that we called networking. In your experience, you appear to be a networker. How has that helped you in terms of your career and your satisfaction in law?
Right. So I think what it comes down to is value alignment in choosing what you're participating in. And then the word networking kind of falls off because it's not intended in that way. You're just participating in something that you care about, and the relationships kind of create themselves out of that. So I think I started off doing an AmeriCorps fellowship and then worked at Legal Aid here in San Diego, and then ended up in private practicing family law. To me, I've reflected on what's the consistency in that, and it's that personal, impactful service that I can identify with.
So family law, how long you been doing that?
Yeah, it's been 7 years now.
And so what do you like about that?
The level of change and the responsibility and taking the hot air out of what's typically the worst part of someone's life experience that they could have, short of, just a few other things. Particularly when it comes to issues like custody or circumstances involving concern over personal safety, financial security. Helping people navigate that is really what my priority is. I do litigate, but that the bread and butter for me is when someone comes to me and has no idea what they're entitled to, what their rights are. and also how to navigate the personalities involved, whether it's with their children, or with the person that they're separating from or trying to navigate a co-parenting relationship with. Giving them that education is so rewarding. And that was a big part that I enjoyed at Legal Aid too, was whenever I got to go to community centers and give presentations to the parents of kids maybe that had special needs, didn't know what their opportunities were for Social Security, that type of thing. So education for sure.
So you feel, I mean, you seem to go to these community events. Do you see a lack of access to justice or people not being educated about their legal rights? Because, we represent a lot of the Latino population in town. And a lot of times when they come to us, they're sometimes hesitant to fight for their legal rights. And primarily it's based, I don't want to say ignorance, but just the lack of information as to how to go about it. Do you encounter that often?
Definitely. I think that that's our job as attorneys, which is another driving force as to why I don't stay in my office. I think a lot of us especially have come from a privileged circumstance, or we're in a pretty privileged position at this point with the resources that are available to us. So I think it's our moral prerogative to find out where the needs are in the community, who isn't getting the opportunities that they are entitled to have.
So I want to ask about you touched on a little bit, but the County Bar Association DEI division, and you talked about, kind of reaching out to these affinity bars, different groups. Can you just give us a feel for the current makeup, if you know these numbers roughly, you know, San Diego lawyers, like how diverse or non-diverse are we?
Right. I mean, I think as a population in San Diego, we are incredibly diverse. I think that there's always a lot of improvements to be made when you're talking about representation in the leadership of these organizations. I think that the county bar, though, is taking great strides to really prioritize that. They give tremendous support to the DEI division. It's an extremely organized program and division, and extremely active. So within the division, we are subdivided into our events and programs subgroup, and then the outreach subgroup. And then from there on, there's other programs that are happening. So we have our anti-racism group. Yesterday, we hosted a really well attended Black history trivia at Chula Vista Brewery. That is a Black owned, veteran owned brewery in Chula Vista.
Wait, that place, weren't they like getting some hassle from the ABC or something for a while? And then, do you know anything about
I
this?
don't.
Oh, okay. Do you know anything about that?
I've heard about it, but I'm not super knowledgeable about. Oh, that's a big thing. That's a big brewery down there. Get popular.
Yeah, I think Shane knows the guy. And it was like a big deal. Like they're a big deal.
Yeah, I believe they have an East Lake.
Yeah, two locations, I think.
Mhm.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool you guys did that.
Yeah, we'll have another. I believe it's a trivia night coming up at Mujeres Brewery as well over here. So that'll be really great. And then we also have dialogue on diversity. So we'll have some speakers or a panel addressing whatever issue we select, but try and make it a CLE as well. So talking about, I always think implicit bias. I'm so happy that that's a CLE because I learn something from it every time, right? I mean, you can't be you can't know about everybody's life experience and how they may perceive a way that you address them or describe them or treat them, and so it's always really educational for me.
I want to go to anything about implicit bias because to me that's a very interesting, topic, and it reflects upon some of the work we do here because we do both civil rights work and we do employment work. And in the employment realm, we might have a one of our clients who, receives a certain treatment or lack of treatment by the so-called, boys club, and that group tends to be white male, and the implicit biases of this group, and I think we all, sadly enough, or just, it's who we are. You tend to favor those that and that you spend time with. And if you've got, and so the programming and the education, the outreach that you're doing, and just bringing awareness to the issue, I think is super important, because otherwise, even if you're trying to be a fair, open-minded, good person, you're gonna, if you're not very, very in tune with, those biases, they're gonna come out. And it can be gender, it can be race, it can be all these things.
Yes, and touching on what you said about sometimes it's you get comfortable with the folks that you know and recognize, and that's your regular circle. I very actively make a point to try and spend as much time as possible getting to know new folks. And that's where I always find a lot of growth and can bring the most benefit to whatever role that I'm providing. So I think that folks need to make a more active effort. It was interesting when I was pairing ambassadors with between the county bar and the affinity bars, and some folks would say, "Oh, well, I'm a member of this one, so I'll be the ambassador for that one." I was, well, that kind of defeats the point. Like, I would rather have you pick one that you don't know anybody in that organization.
Yeah,
You've
yeah, yeah.
never been to their event. Um, that's what's going to be the most enriching for you and them. So
Yeah, I totally agree. So good work on doing that work. I think it's super important.
yeah, similarly with the membership development committee. So a lot of the committee meetings happen on Zoom, which I understand, it's great for convenience. But I think it's best if you can have it be in person, and then even more so reach out to firms that maybe I don't know a lot of their employees or members. Maybe they don't have a large lawyers club presence, and to say we'd like to get to know you. Can we come by and borrow your word table for an hour? Maybe we can chit chat after. So that's really great.
Super cool. Well, we're gonna, with your permission, we'll invite you back, we have our all hands on the first, if you're around, first Monday of every month. And so I think we're coming up on next Monday would be all hands. I don't know if you're around, but if you are, you can either, make a quick little presentation at our all hands, and then have lunch with us afterwards. And you can probably sign up like a bunch of people.
And again, she was good at this, right? She came in last week for her membership meeting. She brought like flyers with the events plus a QR code to the registration link. So I thought that was very, very smart. But you touched on something that I think it was really important. Just the fact that, some people are not joining some of these organizations because they think they don't belong in that organization. For Lawyers Club, a lot of people think that it's only like a women out there, right? No, it's in basic collaboration between male, female, and also, for example, I try to push people into Santiago La Raza lawyers, right? Because people think that you got to be Latino to be a member of La Raza. But like you said, if you join these type of organizations, you'll learn something new. You'll learn something from people that don't share the same background as you do, which ultimately favors your practice, right? You said it. San Diego is very diverse. We got to make that practice very diverse as well.
Well, and success doesn't happen in a silo. And if you think that you got somewhere just, from your own 2 feet and nobody helping you along the way, then you're not seeing the connection of really, humanity. So I think it's really important to see your community partners and what you can give each other to enhance whatever you're trying to accomplish. Especially, I mean, Lawyers Club, right? Women got to a lot of spaces, obviously through hard work, but also because of our male allies that also supported and believed in our initiatives and our purpose and our value. So maintaining that relationship and creating that harmony, I think is critical.
So what kind of stuff do you like to do for fun? Like, it's a weekend, we're down in IB. Like where we get and we see Tamra, you were around town. What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a beautiful strand that runs from, Chula Vista all the way down to Coronado. And so trying to get the bike out there as much as possible. The kids have scooters, so just dog walking. I have a trash picker that I actually really love, and I bring my bag and my trash picker, and we walk the dog and, and pick up stuff on the way.
See, it's a simple thing, Josh.
Yeah.
Simple thing. Shoe shining and
Right. Yeah.
It's very therapeutic, yeah. Walking on the beach, obviously. So yeah, we're very lucky down there, and really too being able to run into the local shop owners. That's another reason that I love our chamber. And we've got Deb's Cookies, we've got a very cute gift shop, and like we just opened our first it's really our first like local grocery store, and it's has a health food focus, which is really awesome for the community. And that was primarily funded by the community itself as a co-op, people paying into like membership that then went towards funding building and processing the store. And so that's just really great. It's just such a local feel. So
That's cool down there.
I like the fact that you say like we like the fact that you take ownership over that. That means that you're building that community within all of these orgs. That's super important because that means that you really care about this.
yeah, and our mayor comes to our chamber meetings and keeps us updated on everything that's developing and working vigorously to help out with the water treatment. So it's great. It really does feel like a team effort.
Shout out to Arashi Judo and Jiu-Jitsu, where I used to train with Sensei Drew, right there on Palm Avenue. They have a wonderful program for kids. You can bring, I'm just imagining that maybe some of your neighbors might listen. And so like bring your kids down there. They can learn a little judo, a little jujitsu in a very family based environment. Drew's a retired naval special, I guess, explosives operator. So like a lot of military, ex-military there. And they have a program all the way through adults. You can also do some striking. You can learn to box and kickbox and do all those things. So there's my shout out to Drew and Arashi, where I used to train before I got too old and beat up. But I'm gonna make my way back. Gosh darn it.
Yeah. Well, and as diverse as San Diego is, I think IB is a shining example of that. I mean, both politically, demographically, it's incredible how many different folks are living down there, and we all make it work together.
Love it. So, I don't know, you're out there, you're doing a lot of stuff, you're politically involved, you're socially involved, you're involved in issues that matter to you. And so a lot of times people come up to me, they'll be like, "Hey, John, you should go into politics or you should be a judge." I'll reserve comment on either of those things for me. But like for you, when people ask you those questions, what does life look like for you in the long term?
Yeah, for sure. I was always just so happy to pass the bar exam, get employed, stay employed. But of course, right, you reach one level and then you're already looking towards the next one. San Diego makes it so easy and fun to get involved in everything that's going on here, and so the door is not definitely not closed. We have a great city council in Imperial Beach, so when the seat comes up for that, that might be interesting. Never say never. So
I think we'll be seeing you do a lot of cool stuff in the future. And so, if you had advice to give to like a younger, person that's listening to this, maybe they're, in high school, maybe they're in college, maybe they're in law school, about, how you recommend they find happiness and fulfillment, like what would you tell them?
definitely, I think getting in tune with yourself and realizing what makes you happy, what is important to you, what makes you feel good, what is bringing you in the presence of people that really make your life feel full, because money never will. it's nice to have security, but beyond that, you need to create your own happiness. So there's always going to be 1,000 different things, right? Like we all get asked to participate in this, that, and the other, but you're going to bring a lot of chaos to your life if you don't know how to create a vision of what is consistent and make that work for you. So that brings me pieces that I've gotten certainly a lot better at not being as random about how I'm allocating my time.
So why did you decide to be a lawyer? You were Loyola undergraduate and law school. And so at what point in time did you decide to become a lawyer and why?
Oh man, it was like sixth grade.
Oh God.
Cycle back.
Like it was it was initially a vet, and then in like sixth grade I was like, nope, lawyer. And I think it was watching Jack McCoy on the original Law and Order just all the time.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, that one really stuck with me. I was never like an MTV person. I was, Law and Order on TNT. And so I think what I enjoyed about that was the deep thinking, the problem solving element of it. And then as I got into college, we had an environmental group on campus that helped run the farmers market. And part of that is being compliant with, okay, people are going to be buying food there, and how do we make sure we have the permits to let that happen, and the organizational value of it. And then just being really spurred by issues of social justice, um, realizing that the people that are really doing the most in that space tended to be legal field. And I wanted to be there, be part of that.
Good, and actually have that background to like help you with your costs, right?
Right.
I do see you like getting very involved with all these things in college, all these awards, and like you just said, like even permits, and you would find that very interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's great that you were doing that.
Yes, it's fun. I certainly never had any idea I would end up practicing family law for a sustained period of time. I had a very random path in law once I started law school. I was doing business internships and just absolutely nothing to do with where I'm at now. But I did do a debt relief clinic that helped people navigate debt that they had with the franchise tax board.
Mhm.
And I had like my own little case files and everything. And that was extremely fulfilling. So I should have taken a hit then that I was going to be working with individuals a lot, but I got there eventually. So
Yeah, that's great. I mean, like for me, I've always been working for, let's say, the people, right? And then working for the individual. At one point, even during law school, I thought I was going to be business law or corporate law. Then I realized what I actually found most fulfilling was talking to people, helping those people, and then ultimately getting them a recovery, right?
sorry.
So, like here at the firm, I mean, that's what we do, right? We represent the people, the individual who've been harmed. So I know we share that in basically in common. So yeah,
Okay, here we go. Hold on. I was messing with this. I think I finally got it. Law and Order. This is what she watched as a kid. We remember this. So now we're in a different era. If there was a law program on, or like a movie or a series today, what would you watch? Is there anything you're watching now?
I mean, I don't mind a lot of the legal procedurals, you know. I mean, it's always a fun one. So
Lincoln Lawyer, would you watch that?
which one is that?
Lincoln Lawyer?
Oh, like, oh yeah, I do watch that.
Okay, all right. I thought you were a Lincoln Lawyer person.
Yeah, I would say like
Yippee holler.
yes. What's different about the shows now is just that everything is so, at some point it gets really kind of fantastical and like outrageous. And I really liked the whole Law and Order because it felt very
Yes.
deliberate.
Right.
It was a slower pace, and it was really about, I felt like at the time about the law and like what the case really was.
I agree. Yeah, it was well done. I remember, do you ever watch something called Boston Legal?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Do you ever watch that one?
I have all the series actually. I don't know. I gotta get.
I remember the thing that was always so surprising to me, the case would come to the office and then they would be in trial like an hour later.
Right. It's hilarious. So that's actually funny that you say that because last year I watched all of the practice because I never watched it when I was on. And then I was like, oh, this is like missing from my
Your
vocabulary.
portfolio, yeah.
Multiple shows. Yeah. And I was really impressed by that one. It, for the most part, it ages pretty well. And then I started with Boston Legal after that, realizing that was sort of like the sequel. But again, kind of ran into like the same thing. It was just so like loud and like
Yes.
early 2000s. And,
Danny Crane.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
I love that guy.
Who is the main female character? What was her name on Boston Legal?
Boston Legal.
I can't remember Danny Crane. Yeah.
The Danny Crane, like he was fantastic. And then he was actually arguing before the Supreme Court. I really remember that episode, and he was saying like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah." I'm like, "That's not what they say."
Right.
All right, so like find purpose, find identity, find something that's going to fulfill you. If you're looking for a career, probably in anything, not just law, but in life. And so, in closing, if you were to be able to ride in the sky, like with clouds, or for all the world to see, some words, and you could leave it up there for a while, they could check it out. What would your words be, Tamra?
Oh gosh.
You can take your time.
Yeah. Well, one would be, I guess, do the right thing. Like that drives me a lot. And that's what hard days always, I feel the most resilient when I can reflect back on how I've been spending my time, whether that's in my family law work or with the nonprofit work. And that definitely helps carry through when I'm feeling like a little insecure, lacking confidence, anything like that. I'm like, all right, I'm doing the right thing though. So it's all going to come together.
Yeah, I think that's good. I like that. That's our first core value here is we always do the right thing. And so we have 10 of them, and that's number one for a reason. If you could live your life that way, you feel pretty good, right?
Yeah. I certainly think that you've mastered the identity bit as well. So it's nice when you feel like you know yourself, there's a consistency there. Consistency builds trust too, right? And that's what we need most in our profession. So
love it. Well, thank you for spending time with us. It was a treat. Look forward to, if you're around next Monday, perhaps you can come in. If not next Monday, we have gatherings every week. But super, I will say, impressed and inspired by you. You have a lot of good energy that you put into a lot of good, issues and causes and people. So it's nice to have someone like you in our orbit. I think we all lift each other up, and your presence is a very positive and good one. And so we're looking for big things from you. I have some theories, but we'll wait and see. But I know it's going to be super good. So thanks for being on the podcast. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you, David.
Of course.
it's great vibes here at the office.
Oh, good. Awesome. Yeah, we try to keep some positive emo going.
That's how we start every Monday, right?
Yeah. With good news. That's the first thing we do. Yeah. On Monday, we do Monday musters also at 8:30. And we always start with good news. So, I think there's something to be said for kind of positive energy creation,
Don't want people wasting time on the Sunday scaries.
Yeah. No Sunday scaries.
No. But I love the fact that we actually get together and basically we write down 5 things that we're grateful for that morning and for that week. And then also 5 things that we're going to put into the universe, like good things, attitude.
Well, it's all about that neuroplasticity. That's you choose as the framework for your mentality.
Exactly.
All right. We'll come back for a second podcast. We'll talk about that. Yeah, but we all believe in that. So thank you again. Thank you again for listening. If you like what you heard, like us, follow us, share. We have a ton of great episode speakers. We're building our community one episode at a time, all people that believe in what's right, believe in justice, and are important members, allies, and partners in our community. So thank you so much. This concludes this episode of the Latino Podcast.